Only Wednesday evening I was here before, and there was this wonderful session with Alakananda Devi, Alakananda Ma, and it was in the other room, and there were all kinds of wonderful feelings that this you know, if we could bottle a little bit what's in here, because in this room I was doing Sufi Geschäften, you know, and the other night it was Hindu, and the shul is here, and it's a wonderful church in which people do good social action stuff. So if we could bottle a little bit of that and show the people who are going to build the next sacred temple in Jerusalem, because it is written that my house will be a house of prayer for all peoples, and it turns out that this place has that wonderful vibe of being a house of prayer for all people. Hey, Atum! So the topic tonight is how to sing a niggun. What is it that we have to do when we want to sing a melody? One of our friends is now getting close to going home. You know, he went home from the hospital because there wasn't anything more they could do for him, and so on. So, sitting at his bedside, I sang him a melody. And you have this wonderful notion that is found in so many cultures about a death song, you know, something to take you out of the discursive mind and to put you into a place where, how would I say, where the mind is more liquid, you know, where it isn't so solid. And from that place, transitions can be made much easier than when you don't have, when the mind is in this very hard place. So then you have to break it, as it were, in order to make a change. Whereas in that place where we sing a melody, you just have to sort of take it. I give an example of one of the melodies that you may know that helps us make transitions. Na 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 ra ra di ra ra da ra ra di ra ra di ra 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 da ra 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 da ra 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 di ra 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 ra. I'm gonna do it a little higher. Na 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 ra 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 ra. We do it again. Na 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 you have to help again to get up all the way to the top. Been too high. No, 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 still too high. No, 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 too low. I give up. I give up. But the point is anyway made that in this melody there is a move from a minor to the major, and you already get the sense how this keeps you alternating. A melody like this keeps you alternating I remember Pete Seeger coming up with such a wonderful thing once, pointing out that how basic a melody is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Along comes Mozart. Ba, 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 bum, 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 bum. Same melody. And now we're gonna be Jews. Na 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 na. Got it? So you see that there were some, I once asked a musician, what difference does it make, you know, for me, when I can't sing in the key of D, I go to the key of A, it's easier for me to go down lower, but I can sing the same melody. But if you play in an orchestra and you can take any note you want, why should you want to choose at one point, for instance, to do C sharp, you know? Like there's a wonderful quartet by Schubert in C sharp. Why would he, can't you play like a man should play plain C so it's easier to play on the piano and I don't have to deal with the black keys, yeah? The answer is that if you go back to the old Greeks, the Pythagoreans and so on, they had a real sense that which scale you use was going to make a big difference. And we have the same thing when we do our Torah reading. It's so clear that when you go pa 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 ba ba da 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 da, and the midwives, they didn't do what Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, said to them to do, and they let the children live. Okay? So here's the narrative. And when you go to hear Isaiah, who is telling you about the dream of the good life that can yet be, and the wolf and the lamb will lie together, and a child will safely play at the mouth of the hiding place of a snake. You know, you hear that? The melody, and so many people make the mistake, for instance, fundamentalists are lost because they don't sing the text. For instance, when Jesus is talking about feeding the poor, then he says, whatsoever you have done to the least of my brethren, it's even if you had done it unto me. Get that? But then there is a guy who's questioning about his sin and about how he likes to look at things he shouldn't look at. And Jesus says, so if thine eye offend thee, cast it out. So he isn't saying, go to the eye doctor and say, this eye offended me. and cut it out, right? So you know right away how the melody gives you that sense in which you know whether this is poetic language and therefore you have to treat it as an analog to something deeper and higher, or whether this is, if you want to put this chair together, you have to take part A and connect it to part B with screw 2 or something like that. At that point, you don't want to have, oh, if you want to put the chair together, wow. Part A, part B. Do you see how misplaced the whole thing would be, right? Okay. So melody and inflection is very important. Now, there are all kinds of prayers, and they have to be sung in a way so that the very singing becomes a prayer. The good thing about the melody is that it allows us to switch channels easy. In other words, we begin to sing, and we tell a discursive mind, relax, now I've got something else to do. And You go into a place that first is a place of feeling, and then you go to a place in which you consider your values. I remember once there was a meeting in Jerusalem, and there were young people from various groups coming, and of course, as usual, there are the people who were haranguing them about this is the right way and that is the right way, with the kippah, without the kippah. People would be arguing all these kinds of things. When a young Reform rabbi got up and he said, "Gentlemen, ladies, why don't we take 5 minutes to consult our values?" Right? It was so wonderful. 5 minutes to consult the values. Now, that would go so much easier when all the, how would I say, the stimuli are set up for that. So, for instance, when you want to move out of the discursive mind and you walk into a space and it's not too well lit, but there is a focus on some candles up front, and the smell is a smell, thank you, a smell of incense that already took you to another place. So you see how you use whatever you can in order to get there. Today I want to concentrate on how we use melody, but not so much from singing from the outside, but the singing from the inside. Okay? Most of the time when we speak of niggunim, or when we use music, like in commercials, the music is at the service of something else. It doesn't stand in itself. When Bach does a Mass in B minor, he isn't trying to sell chocolate or hair lotion, you know, he's saying this is in itself, this is it. This is the worship. Krakow. How wonderful a memory we share. There we were in Krakow, and this was yet before the communist regime came down. And there's this huge plaza inside a palace. And there we were, and we were to listen to the Polish symphony coming and the chorus to sing and to perform Mozart's Requiem. And I was asked to tell the people how to listen, because it was at the end of a wonderful, wonderful period of time which we had been doing some really great work in Poland with the people who had come to be with us. And so it was easy, was already speaking to the converted. Through an interpreter, I was saying, when you have holy music, you mean that this music is a sacrifice. This is what you're offering to God. And the fact that we had turned things around, you know, before the cantor would be standing with his back to the people and with his face to the ark. So if you were to look at the focal point, you know, where the attention of the people go to, and if from that place you would have looked down, you would have seen that all these people are offering, as it were, a concert. And that's when all the descriptions of angels go and say, you know, they make music and they play to God and so on and so forth. Someone once said this very nice, that when God wants to listen to music, he listens to Bach. But when the angels want to have fun, they play Mozart. Because he was such a gunner, you know, he could do such nice things. Often when I want to show how a good niggun is made, there's one little fast movement I think in a concerto. No. Dum bum 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 ba 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 bum. Dum 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 bum bum dum bum 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 dum bum 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 dum bum 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 dum bum 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 bum. So you see how he's playing, weaving in the themes, and so and that's very wonderful. But the idea that comes in sacred music is not so much as a kleine Nachtmusik, you know, to give some people some nice evening music, but a lot more to do it in a way that this becomes a service in itself. So there are different niggunim. So we call these niggunim, one group we call table bangers. And you know what I mean. It's that, and and that's a sacred thing. You got to understand that it's almost like you're in the pub and you're banging on the table and saying, "Yay, we got a God, He is so wonderful." Bum 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 bum. How do we do that? Hazan et ha'olam kulo betuvo be'chein be'chesed u'berachamim. Right? You got that. The exuberance of that is the gift. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what can I offer? The subtle part that is behind the noise and the bang with the table and the visceral feeling and all that, that subtle thing is that exuberance. I forgot who wrote that. I think it was Mozart too. Freut euch des Lebens, da, ti, da, da, ti, da, da, da. He says, be happy with life, you know? Aren't you glad you're alive? That's that element. So you offer that. And a table banger does this in a, what Sufis would be calling a jalali mood, boisterous, strong. Okay. Now then there is a tishnigan. And you're not doing anything to that. That's to say, you're not making the noise, you're not so much in the rhythm. You are in this kind of thing that wants to gather everyone together and to flow with it. When we do, as I'm there's deeper than that, but I'm using this one that you all know. Look at Hinei Matovo Manayim. Look how you start to sway. Don't hold back, it's good. Shebetachim gam yachad. Hinei matov. Shebetachim gam yachad. Now check while you're singing. What's going on inside of you, and what is it that you're offering to God singing that? The best way to do that, instead of going da da, is Hinei matov manayim shevet achim follow the aftertaste of that melody in your heart. Okay? Now, if I could send, I can, but, in language, we don't have good language for that. But what do I want to send up to God about shared worship? I want to say, no, is that so bad? Wouldn't you like to have the whole world get involved in doing that thing together? You know, when you go into It's a Small World After All in Disneyland?
No.
You've been there?
No, but that's...
Let's see who has been there. Do you remember that? You go through, you sing the same song, but in every chamber you come, it makes it so that you feel, here you're in the Middle East, here you're in the Far East and in the Pacific. It's so amazing what they did with the tones around that, And the sense of being able to imagine this sense of the great choir. I once had this amazing experience that we're doing in Winnipeg, the Bloch Sacred Service. Do you know that, the music? Ernest Bloch was a Swiss Jew who wrote music, and he did this, he did Shlomo, he did a number of a Baal Shem suite, he did wonderful things. And so he wrote the Sacred Service. Now can you imagine how he, with this great orchestra, with a double choir string, a big harp in front and all the instruments laid out around there, and he comes to the Shema. And here come the brass. Ba ba da ba ba da ba 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 da ba ba. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. You get the idea. So what he was hearing, and therefore what he was presenting us with, was this wonderful sense of gathering people together, make the proclamation to say also something, this is no joke. If you have to get a message, I'm not kidding, that's... On the other hand, when it came and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, there the flutes and strings came out, and it was so wonderful. So you see how people will choose instruments and so on and so forth in order to make the music go this way. So, when are different types of Niggun sung? You have to thank him for that, because Eyal doesn't want me to just wander around and tell nice stories. He also is interested in a CD that we're going to put out, and so some of this stuff is going to get taken off these things, so it's all right. So when do we sing, and why do we sing different niggunim? So I want to begin with describing different situations, and I was talking about the Tish Niggun at this point. Okay. We have Baruch El Elyon here. Baruch El Elyon Asher Natan Menucha. Maybe. If not, we'll take it off from here. Huh?
Lecha Amar Libi?
No, that's not the one.
We don't have that one here.
No, that's good. So then we'll do it now and then we'll get it out. Okay. The setting. It's Shabbos afternoon. It's late in the afternoon. And it's sort of a melancholy time because you know that the Shabbos was with you and it's about to go away. and you want to hear some instructions from the teacher, but you also got to turn them on. So how do you do that? By sitting around and doing a melody, sometimes with words, sometimes without words, what you would call zmirot, table hymns, because there's special table hymns that we have for Shabbat. The words for this one go, "Blessed is the Most High God, who gave us rest." L'nafshenu pidyon mishet ve'anacha. You have given our souls freedom. You have redeemed our souls from having to sigh and feel oppressed. It's almost like saying, I'm so grateful you lifted the depression from me, okay? And you gave me a chance to really, really, really rest. So this is a melody that celebrates that and says that, thank you, God, for giving us this. And as the people sit around and they're about to receive some Torah teaching that will take them into the next week and so on, it goes like this. And I'd like you to on the one hand, hum, sing along as you feel like, because most of these melodies they don't take rapid turns, you know, they go where you would expect them to go a little bit.
I think I found it. I think it's
No, that's the next one. That comes next. That's more go close to the table bangers. Okay. That's it. All right, so I'll start. Just you give me so that you can go. Give me we are in A, whatever. Yetzavet zur chasdo, keilotov lekabes, meyar baruchot, keilotov lekabes. Na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ha ha ay 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 ay. You repeat it twice, but this time I'll do it 3 times. So you can learn to sing it. Asher nasanenu v'chop lenafshenu v'yidyam v'shevanu v'chop v'hu yidrosh leitziyon nefesh menovacho hashomer shabbos habenim abbas la'el yeratzu la'el yeravazu kemin aval machavat ayrachevo haravais melech olamim esamoel ishbois izen banei yemin b'machalei madamim b'malbushei chavod Shomer Shabbos Habeni Mabas Loveil Yerasu 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 Kemin Cho Aval Machavad. And now I need you to give me. And you continue with the finger picking and with the chords, because I need that for now, and you're going to do the same like he does. I know rhythm, da 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 da. Na da da da, na da da da, na da 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 da, na da 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 da. Again, da da da. Da 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 da. That's why we need the guitar chords. Na da da da, na da da da, na da 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 da. Da 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 major. Da 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 da. Now we've had the beginning, sort of laying the place, and then sort of saying the longing, and now comes, don't worry about it, it goes like ya da 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 ya da 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 I da 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 I da 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 I da 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 I da 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 ya 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 da 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 Marilyn is here, and she knows from the Gurdjieff music, where he was talking about, and he said that there are some, most music, he would say, is sort of incidental, people's flotsam and jetsam of feelings. But there are some melodies that are very specific, because they take you to a place. And we'll sing another one of those melodies later that is meant to go take you higher. But for instance, yai dai 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 dai, the table with the violin numbers, and you got it ready. Now we can use a drum. Yai dai 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 dai, yababam yababam, ai dai di da dai, ai dai dai di da da dai dai, ai da da dai da, ai da da dai da, ai dai dai dai, ai dai di da da di da da di da 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 da, di da 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 di da da da, di da 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 da, di da da da, di da da di da da da. This is sort of a thank you song, you know? It's like, after a good meal, we have a hymn that goes, Sur mishelo achalnu bochu emunai salvanu vehotarnu kidvar Adonai. Thank you, God, we have eaten, we are filled, we are satisfied, just like you told us to do, right? So it's like, it's almost saying to God, I ate everything that you served me, you know, and thank you, because it really has that sense, you know, when you sit at the Shabbos table and during the week you wouldn't, if you're a learned person, a holy person, you wouldn't go and make a whole fuss over food, you know, but come Shabbos, oi, the shtickle fish, tam Gan Eden, right? And people would talk like this because it's almost as if permission is fully granted. But what's underneath is that I can say on Shabbos to God, enjoy my palate. I'm going to let it right through to you to see, this really feels good. I'm glad to be a human being, to have a tongue and teeth and all that, get it? You know? It's just really wonderful. Sometimes when somebody eats something that I can't have, if it isn't kosher or chocolate cake, if it's a friend, I can say, would you do me a favor? Eat it nice and slowly and send me the vibe. You don't get fat from the vibe. But there is something, you know, there's something really happening when a person is quite willing to allow your feeling body to enter their feeling body in order to taste what they're tasting. That's such a wonderful thing. And if you say that a priest eating something, that the eating of the Kohen in the temple was sacrifice. Some of the sacrifices were burned on the altar, but some of the others were eaten by the priest. And so you get a sense of what the eating prasad, how, with what intention do you eat prasad? The same way, you know. Now, is there usually a leader for that? Well, I tell you, even if there isn't a leader, there are some people who want to be leaders. They say, it goes like this, Adon Olam Asher Ma B'derem Kol. He's already at the next, he doesn't give you know what I'm saying? So there are always some people who come in and they do that. Then there are some people who aren't satisfied with the pace. They want the pace to be faster. So I give you an example, one of those niggunim that people murder for me, and here's how it goes, okay? It's first you sing Yedid Nefesh, and then you get da-dee da-da-da-da, dee-da-da-da-da, da-dee-da-da-da-da, dee-da-da-da-da-da, and then they start the hurdy-gurdy, da-yam-pa-da-ra-ra, yam-pa-da-ra-ra, ay-da-da-um-ba-da-um-ba-ba-ba. And it's a beautiful melody, but not at that pace. So it goes like, ya na 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 na, ya na na na, ay da 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 da, ho da da, da 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 da. What did I do all week long? Ay, 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 ay. I'm holding up this week to you, God. Ay, 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 Once again I said I would do something, and I didn't do it last week. Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da. I hope I'll do better next time. You see, that's how a melody like this is being used for reflecting on things. What is a typical beginning and a typical ending? I don't know about that, but the typical middle is ta-da, something like this. You know, when you sing Nagila Hava, Nagila Hava, Nagila Hava. Oh, let's wait for it. Yeah. Very good. Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, You know, all of you, the little kids in you, are so happy. I once was with some wonderful nuns, and this was just when Vatican II was beginning, and they were, in those days, thinking about the possibility of women priests coming from their ranks, and before they said the big no-no about it again. So I said to them, I'll come and do this workshop with you, but I'd like you to come celebrate with me a dry mass. What would it feel like if you were to be priest? So how would you stand around the altar? What would you do? And so on. It was a wonderful thing. But they were still too frum, because they had to have a priest standing at the other end, so it shouldn't be a brocha levatol. You shouldn't, you know, shouldn't get lost, cholila. But anyway, the lectionary was there at that time, how Mary is visiting her Aunt Elizabeth. Both of them are pregnant. Elizabeth is pregnant with John the Baptist, and Elizabeth comes from the rich family, fancy house, and so on. So when Mary Neville, this poor girl, comes, and Elizabeth is sitting on sort of a very fancy chair. When Mary comes in, and Elizabeth gets up and stands in awe before her, sort of, you know, to honor her. So Mary says, I should be the one to honor you. Why do you stand up? And she says, when I saw you, the child within me leapt for joy.
Oh.
Isn't that wonderful?
Wow.
Yeah. And so, since we had been dancing with the nuns too, as part of the Psuke de Zimra of the Gloria beforehand, they were saying that for the first time they felt that the child within me leapt for joy. They all had the child within them leaping for joy. And that's so wonderful, because it's the kind of on the one hand, if you fancy, you say it's a regression, you know? But it's such a geschmacker regression. It is so wonderful. And so they already made it kosher. They say you can have a regression in the service of the ego. All right. Dance, niggunim. We tried last time. Maybe we try this one again, but just let's do the melody so that you'll have it down when we're going to try it. It's the up and down Rebbe Melech's dance.
The Mojitzer March or the...
No, Rebbe Melech's dance. I don't think we did that down either. See, all these things are coming up at this point. Good. Let's try the same, but in the same key. Good. No, a little higher. Yum dum 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 bum. Dum bum ba da yum dum dum bum dum da 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 yum dum bum dum bum ba da dum bum 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 da hey yum dum bum bum dum bum dum bum bum If I catch you move like this, I'll throw you out of the synagogue. Hey ya, okay, we do more later, okay? Maybe we'll even learn how to dance this one. So what's a typical beginning, what's a typical ending? There is a melody that once came to me sort of in improvisation, and we wrote it down and it was very good, but I wasn't happy with the beginning. When we sang it first, it became die, 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 ya, di, 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 die, 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 ya, di, di, da, dum, di, di, da, da, di, 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 dum, da, da, di, da, di, da, 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 dum, da, da, di, da, 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 dum. And then we went die, 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 ya da di da di da 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 da, die, 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 ya da 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 da, die, die di da da da. It's a much better opening. Do you know what I'm saying? When I go die, 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 that belongs for the middle already. But what would I say? I didn't manufacture it, it just came, it invited itself into my head. So it started not at the beginning, but when I say, by repeating it, you can agree with me, right?
One step higher?
A little higher, sure. We go a little higher. La 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 slower, ya da 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 da. So now you have an ending here too. It's ready. There are some niggunim that never end. Rabbi Shlomo had some niggunim like this that you had to really stop him, you know, because Professor Heschel would say, what is a niggun? A niggun is a tune flowing in search of its own unattainable end. Okay? That's such a wonderful phrase, a tune flowing in search of its own unattainable end. And what usually happens is that people flatten them out, you know, that there are some extra nuances, but they get flattened out when you hurdy-gurdy them, you know, when you don't put your feeling inside. So he stopped the people and he began to tell them why one mustn't do this to a niggun like this, and he began to show them how every part of the niggun has to be there. And he said, imagine if you were to have a car and everything is ready, but the spark plugs aren't in there. You know, everything is needed, but you also, you know, you need everything else in order for the whole thing to work. So I'd like to bring that to you so you could hear him do that and then sing with him. It was just very wonderful. We'll figure a way to make that come true. Okay. What words or syllables do you use? Recently, someone sent me a set of cassettes that someone recorded of beautiful Lubavitcher niggunim. And I played them just once or twice, and I don't want to hear them again, because he was spoiling it for me. Why? First of all, there were some niggunim that he was accompanying with a rhythm that don't belong, where the rhythm doesn't drive. It's not that kind of a niggun that the rhythm should be there. But the worst part was that he was, the person who was singing, is an Oriental Jew who has become a Chabad Chassid. So he is listening with the ear of a Moroccan Jew to a Russian Jew scatting to the nigunim. So he doesn't take it as scat, which in scat you can say bim bam and you can say yababam, it's your choice. But he was trying to be so authentic that he was giving us like making like I can't do this. I wish I could show you how this sounds when a Moroccan is trying to sound like a Russian Jew. And then he uses syllables for it that he had heard and he wants to reproduce it. Now, if he would have gone into the feeling of the niggun and not worried so much about how to scat, I wish I could just do it without making any scat, because I want to see for you to see how you would scat. Da 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 pum pum pum. No. Da 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 da. Let's hear. Da 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 That's what I'm afraid about. So, all right, the point is made, right? That you pick a syllable that allows you to do that. And there are some places where you're too timid, because if you had been singing more in pubs and so on and so forth, you would have gotten to the place where, you know, so that the cymbals would come through, you know, and the traps and everything that would enhance it, and you'd have to make that happen. Do you remember something like this that went, hey compare, ci va a sonare, come se suona la violino, e lo tira, and then he goes, hey compare, ci va a sonare, come se suona la flageolento. So, what happens is that, I don't know, I'm sure when you were kids that you also mimicked, you know, the trumpets, right? And you'd mimic the violin and so on and so forth. And while we are doing this here sort of self-consciously, if you can imagine you're with some Hasidim, and they're not self-conscious about that. And they're quite willing to get into the melody. Such a funny thing in Lubavitch, the last few years of the Rebbe, he spent some time in France, in Paris. So the Marseillaise was a wonderful thing for him. So you should see the black capotes with the black hats, you know, sing bam ba dai dai yo yo ay yo yo did dai 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 I did it did bum by dai 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 ti da So that's the answer to what syllables, okay? All right. Is singing in harmony typical? No. There are some places where you got this one, that Hungarian thing, Drogi Karabininba, yeah? It goes, Right. So, when you sing Eastern stuff, an example, for instance, Mipiel, Mipiel, Yevorach Yisrael, Mipiel, Mipiel, Yevorach Yisrael, En Adir Kadonai, V'en Baruch Geben Amram, En Gedolah Katorah, V'en Havaneh Yisrael, Mipiel, Mipiel. No harmony there. It's not into harmony. I can't imagine a muezzin calling out, you know, from the minaret and doing something like a yodel. It doesn't go. Do you understand? But on the other hand, there are some places where the harmony is just so wonderful. The Tijuana brass. Remember some of the stuff that they play? The trumpets are in such good, They're in such good harmony together, and they sound almost like one voice at this point. But it has both of these things. So harmony, it depends where harmony and when not, okay? In most of the shuls, if you it's so hard because most of the time when you go and you study with a chazan, the chazan isn't gonna, maybe he doesn't even know it, but he certainly isn't gonna tell you that you should listen to a Gospodoi Pomiyu of the Russian Orthodox Church, so you should have an idea. You know, and this way, and then you would see how much of that kind of moods comes in on Yom Kippur in some of the prayers, and that's because it's there. On the other hand, if you're in Germany and you have Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, can you hear the organ? Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kemoshienu, etc. Right? And that's fine, because that's what people knew as a haben Musik, music that's going to give me a lift. Okay? In Vienna, they weren't Protestants. So what did they have there? Catholics. So where is the big music in Vienna, where the Vienna Boys Choir is? And that's in St. Stephen's Cathedral. And what did they do there? In exitu Israel Egipto, Dominus Jacobi de populo barbaro. They would do the Gregorian chant and so on and so forth. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol. Get that? So everywhere there's the sentiment, what they don't want to, maybe they weren't ready to understand that before, that the song comes from the earth. Kechu mizimrat haaretz, take from the song of the earth. Mahler did a piece called Das Lied der Erde, the song of the earth, you know. There's something that each country, when you hear Smetana do the Moldau, you can be in that place and you can hear some alpine music. It'll take you to various places because the earth brings that out. How do you take people? I want to go back to that one because I'll deal with harmony before I go to the march. here is, you're in Central Europe, you're not in Austria, you're in Hungary, okay? And you're trying to sing some songs for Shabbos that say, Dror yikra lebenim bat, freedom is offered to the son and to the daughter, everybody is celebrating Shabbat together, and so you pick up a melody. Let's hear the, give that. I need that harmony. Better tune. This time you stay with me. You haven't eaten enough herring to do this. This time, you're not just little kids. This time, you're teenagers pretending to be grown-ups in the pub, having gotten some beer that nobody knows about. you get, do you see, when I call it by these names, I'm just trying to make sure that you get a sense of, how would I put it, some handles on the music, how it works. So now we're going to come to the march, the Bojizer. Thank you. Hold it, I gotta change tires myself. Tararam, 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 taram bam bam, yam tararam, 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 tararam bam bam, tararam bam 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 bam, tararam bam 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 bam, tararam. That one has to have that kind of an ending. So, to tell you a little bit about where we got the marches, I think I told you last time, but I'll tell it again, it's always so much fun to tell. In the shtetl, you may not have always have had such great composers. And we were not above snatching some melodies from elsewhere. So, Kaiser Franz Josef is about to come to a little shtetl. And every once in a while, you know, the Austrians, it's amazing if you think about the United States of Central Europe during the years of that empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Not everybody was happy with that, but in comparison it was wonderful. Everyone had their own language and so on. And they really loved the Kaiser Franz Josef. The saying was that he is such a wonderful Kaiser, he cares so much, a father of the country, that he has two desks. One is a standing desk and one is a sitting desk. So when he gets tired sitting, he works at the standing desk, all for us, all the time. So, you know, you had a sense of this. And he was a kind man. If you've seen some pictures, he had this beard sort of on the side here. And he would come out on the wagon that was his special wagon on the train, the Kaiser Königliche train. And his wagon was the last one. So he would pull up in the station in the place, and there would be the local garrison, and they would do Wacheablösung, a change of the guard. Present arms, he'd do the whole Meise. And he would watch from there and salute them and so on. And the priest would present the sacred relics of that city to the emperor so he could see them and venerate them. And the rabbi was there with the chazan, with the shamas, with the Sefer Torah. And Kaiser Franz Josef would say, "Yeah, in our archives in Vienna, we have a Torah roll like this, you know." And he would be very nice. And then there would be the guy with the mustache, you know, twisted up there, and he had a very special decorated stick in his hand, and he would turn around and all the people were ready with the umpapa band, you know, with the cymbals and the drums and the trumpets and all that. And he would go and make the sign, and they would give the emperor a march that was sort of something special for him. The rabbi says to the chazan, "Grab that march." So it would come Shabbos, he would say to the chazan, did you get the march from the Kaiser? And he says, yes. Did you work it through with the choir boys? Yes. So today, when you come to El Adon al Kol Hamasim, God, who is the Lord of all creation, I want you to sing the march. Okay? So could you imagine this now? All right? Avon Chegaigas, have we got that? Which one is it? All right, very good. So here's one that he got from the Kaiser. Start again. Eyal The rest goes. Help me out. I lost.
What do you mean?
That's it? So we did that, okay. But you can imagine, you know, I often feel that I'd like to, you know, sometimes there are markers on melodies that don't let you use them too easily. But one Shabbos in Winnipeg, and it was freezing, and was sort of with wind chill factor was below 70. And I was walking with my heavy parka to the synagogue, and only a few of the old timers, barely a minyan was there, because the other people who came by car couldn't even start the cars, you know, and you had to plug them in there, and so that the oil shouldn't be like wax for the motor to be able to turn. So I come to the shul that Shabbos, and I look around, and really these old timers are there, and I was in a wonderful, elated mood. So I came to the Kedusha, the part where you say, the holy, 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 the Sanctus, yeah? And there is a beautiful prayer that says, Mimkomecha malkeinu tofia v'timloch aleinu ki mechakim anachnu loch. Appear from your holy place from there and reign over us, rule over us, because we are waiting for you, you know? And we are waiting for you. So, Mimko, no wait, that's the other one. Mimkomecha malkeinu tofia v'timloch aleinu ki mechakim anachnu lach matai timloch betzion bekarov beyameinu leyolam va'et tishkon titkadal. Anyway, none of the old timers knew that melody and where it came from. And when I finished davening that day, they came over and said, "Oi, where did you take this wonderful niggun from?" so you know, there is that element in which, on the other hand, you might go into an Anglican, to an Episcopal church and hear, "Praise to the living God," and you'll hear the Yigdal Elohim Chai Ve'yishtabach Nimsa Ve'yenet El Metziuto Nelam Ve'gam Ensov Le'achduto Nelam Ve'gam Ensov Le'achduto. So, this is a wonderful thing with music. So, is there anything more on this note? No. We can start organizing the dancing if you're going to try it. Are you willing to try it? Okay. Let's do the melody so we don't have to push the niggun later on. No, not that march.
Oh, the Geiger one or the?
No, the Elimelech. The over and under. All right. Let's wait.
Let's do it.
And a little higher. You have to wean yourself from me if you can be the dancer. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Da la la la. La 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 la. Di da 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 di da 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 da. Ya da da. Not yet. Hot boys. The fish by the net. Get better. Not yet. Twice. Now. While you're singing, move the chairs and put them over the racks. Yum da da dum da dum da da dee da da. And face clockwise. Side by side and face clockwise. That's the way. Good. Oh, okay. It won't work. It won't work. Too small. You can put them on the shoulders. It's also not going to work because you have to bend. All right. You come with me, and then the two of us are going to dance together. All right. Now, you turn around and face the other way, both of you. And you face the other way. 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 Good. Now, the people who are facing this way, who are going at this point counterclockwise, will raise their arms. No, the middle one. The middle where you hold hands, that's right. And these people will glide on the knee. See that? Okay. Continue. Do that just for trying. No, not all the time.
Just once. Just once.
You did only once. It's not Pesach. Okay. Start this whole thing again. This time they go under, and then you go under the next group that's coming up. Okay, got that?
What?
Everybody aligned? Okay, ready. Yam da dum 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 da di da dum dum din dum da da yam da dum 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 di da 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 yam da dum 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 di da din da 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 yam da dum 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 di da 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 ya da dum dum da dum 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 da di da 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 First of all, move a step closer to the center now. Good. So that you won't have such a big hiatus between one and the other. That's number one. Number two, I'd like you to do this. It is for fun. But I'd like you to do this with a certain precision. Because, first of all, staying in step, as the rhythm has it, and that sense of over and under is sort of like a mantra. It's a body mantra. And that's going to be very important because it shows sometimes you have to be the one to make space for the other. Sometimes you're the one who has to go through the thing. So keep this really with the rhythm. Ready? Okay. You're not singing. After a while, chaos starts setting in, and that's okay. But can you imagine, in all these things, you want to get beyond the place of the novelty of it. So have you ever seen Pilopolis? Yes. Those dancers, they're so remarkable because they look like 2 or 3 people are one person, really. It's just like one organism. And when you can manage to do the dance in such a way that it has that sense of, in the rhythm, and that you have really, how would I say, surrendered to the rhythm and to the dance. I want to say that something funny was happening. There was sometimes, I liked the way in which you handled it, by the way. There were times when it looked like, are we up or are we down? You know? And how you made the traffic control work, that was very good. Okay. Dakini, come here. Just for a finale. May the blessing.
No, I guess.
Shirak, come.
I can say it.
Okay, go ahead. So we, the dance.
Should
we do it?
Sure. May the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart. Now and forevermore. Go ahead. May the blessing of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart. Now and forevermore.
Thank you.
Rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart. Okay, one more. God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forever. A good night.